Insecurity has been one of the major challenges facing the country over the years, and we seem to be talking about it in circles with no improvement whatsoever. Where exactly do you think we need to pay attention to and work on?
We need to focus on our national integration, because I had to personally do a study on the foundational causes of all these, and I discovered it's because we have not actually united as a people. So we don't have that trust capital to proceed, engage our resources and create prosperity. And this has reflected in the quality of leadership that we experience from time to time. I'll give an example. Perhaps when the Northerner is there, the main interest is to project and protect the interests of the northern part of the country. When the South-South gets there, it shifts to the South-South, to the Southwest. So we have not come together as a people to say, hey, we need to drop all our differences and leverage on our diversity that should actually be a fountain of strength. And this has reflected in the insecurity we have, because lately I've been so bothered and I had to go into content analysis. So permit me to use the case study of the Boko Haram. The Boko Haram started out in year 2002 as an ideological movement, and of course a move to protect the interest of Islam. Muhammad Yusuf in Borno State came up to say that Western civilization is a corrupt system, and that Western education is prohibited. If you look at Boko, it represents book in Hausa, even if the spelling of book is mixed up, and Haram means it is forbidden. And he started then by creating a learning center where younger ones were indoctrinated within the state and from some neighboring communities. And this rolled out as a peaceful matter until 2009, when he was taken out by the government and the real insurgency started. And of course, Shekau took over from him, and at the point in time is a group rose under Obamawi and different kinds of leadership, to the point that today we have Boko Haram translating to the Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP. And of course, along the line, ISIS, seeing an opportunity to collaborate, has been aiding them. And as we speak today, talking about the casualty on the country, we have about 27,000 human lives wasted, about 2.3, not less than 2.3 displaced. About several people have even run out of the country. Our economy is crippled. The northern part of the country is in turmoil. The spirit of crime is almost engulfing the nation. Now, let's go to the political side of it. When you look at our political leaders and the statements they make, you can test the quality of our unity. In 2011, our present president, my amiable president, Muhammadu Buhari, was the presidential candidate of CPC. He did not win that election, and he felt the election was rigged. So he rose up in 2012 to make a threat that if the 2015 election did not turn out to be free, fair and credible, that he was, by the grace of God, prepared to soak the baboons and the dogs in blood. It was an issue that caught the attention of Nigerians, but they never paid critical attention to it. And the question I asked myself was, if a man threatens to do something, if he loses, if he wins, is that threat not a reflection of a mission or vision? But that is a question for scholars to answer. In 2013, bringing the regional aspect of it that spells out the fact that I doubt we are united as a people. My president also, a candidate then, made a declaration that clamp down on Boko Haram by the government is an injustice to the North. That was, I think, June 2013. All these things are on record, content analysis. And he also mentioned that there were 3 types of Boko Haram, according to the analogy of, I think, Ango Abdullahi, that we have the federal government as Boko Haram. He was speaking from the side of opposition then, so it was an allegation. Then the second Boko Haram, the criminals who are killing people. And the third Boko Haram, the original one that Muhammad Yusufu started in 2002. So the question I'm asking is this: which of the 3 Boko Haram groups got technically defeated in 2015 when President Muhammad Buhari assumed office and Nigerians were assured that Boko Haram had been technically defeated? Because as of today, it's a very messy situation. And you look at the impact on our economy, you look at the impact on our social life, you look at the impact on our image and reputation in the polity of nations. As at this morning, the report we have is that the United Kingdom has cautioned the citizens not to visit about 21 states out of the 36 states in Nigeria because of the high incidence of kidnapping, different kinds of crime, and that is debilitating. You know, this morning I was monitoring a great investor in Africa who is our own, seeking to pull a business of about $700 million to Nigeria by establishing around Africa. And when we have brilliant opportunities like this and we don't have the peaceful environment to attract the investment, why should we complain that we are labeled as the capital of poverty? Recently also, and this touches on leadership, because this, you know, a lot of people look up to you as a leader. So your body language, your spoken, whatever you roll out there, we highly influence people.
So speaking of the president and his body language, what do you think he has been doing over the situation, the insecurity going on?
The latest allegation is that he's been quiet, particularly in respect of the headsmen who've been killing across the country. You know, and in law and in some other areas, they say that silence is a sign of consent. It's either what is happening is in line and you are pleased by it, so you see no reason to comment, or you are overwhelmed. Whichever the case may be, it should not be associated with my lovely president, who was a military head of state, a general in the army, and presently the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He is a northerner. So when you even talk of social influence as an opinion leader, as a respected elder statesman that can call people to order, he has several platforms of influence alongside with others around him to really pacify these insurgents, whatever the case may be. But several angles have come into it, and again, he is a principal figure in the Mieti business that is associated with the Fulani headsmen that are alleged to be killing people around the country, which we have not denied. So you now see a situation where it appears that the interest of a group is being projected above national interest. And if you look at chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, you start picking it from section 14 to section 16. It talks about the fact that we should have social justice, national integration, that the economy should be driven in a way that we have sustained and balanced economic development, provision for all, and ensure that we don't promote what we call ethnic sentiments and things like that. But that is by the way. Now, coming to the role of leadership. Recently, towards the 2019 election, the foreign observers expressed intention to observe the elections. They actually did. And one of the governors in the north, whose region also is notorious for the different kinds of crime and banditry, made a threat that if the foreign observers intervened unduly, that they will return to their countries in body bags. And I mean, when a leader, the chief security officer of a state, rules out such a threat, then who should be worried when people get killed in such an environment? And right now, we've come to the point where the narrative has shifted to what it used to be. In the past, perhaps the lowly ones are the ones who are vulnerable. But right now, the high and the mighty are vulnerable. Sadly enough, I got a report today that the son of a former Minister of Health has been kidnapped in the state, in fact in the hometown of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. A district head was kidnapped and he has not been found. We have several reports. Recently, I think the governor of Ondo State had his own brush with these criminals also. We have banditry everywhere. Recently, the governor of Osun State ran to the chief of army staff to beg for support in the face of, abject insecurity.
All right,
so we now see the whole nation being under siege. In fact, on the social aspect of research, in the state of the president, Katsina State, businesses are crippled like some other states in the country because people are afraid. People are afraid. You see, so it's like, and you know the result of all this. And again, something I expect should catch our attention is the fact that it is one fault not to fight crime effectively. It is a worse fault to breed crime. Some of us were asking questions when we were reading in the newspapers the 3 containers of tramadol imported to Nigeria seized by the customs, ammunition imported into Nigeria, military camouflage. So it's like some people are deliberately breeding criminals, turning their minds against every sense of reasoning. And that is why when you look at the kind of crimes that are being committed now, they are frightening. But some of us are hopeful, and we expect that the leaders of this generation must realize that they are failing us.
All right, so
and that whatever their differences are, we have grievance procedures in HR, we have conflict resolution procedures. If we don't come together as a people and define the fabrics of our relationship, we will remain poor, confused, threatened, intimidated in the midst of abundant resources. And I think that is the summarized narrative of my great country as of today.
All right, so do you think the president's silence, which you have attributed to his consent over insecurity, could also be related to the fact that he has refused to change the security heads of state despite their somewhat insubordinating attitude to their job? They've not been doing their job the way they ought to. What's your take on that, sir?
It's part of it. I said it. If people are complaining that someone is not effective in office, and you hold meetings with such a person, and you come out to pass a vote of confidence in the person, questions must be asked. And like I insinuated earlier, it's either you are satisfied with the situation on ground that we call status quo, or you are either weak or overwhelmed or too emotional to make the change. You see, and whether we like it or not, constitutionally, I am under obligation to look up to my government to protect me and create an enabling environment. It is not my responsibility. I can collaborate with the efforts of the government. I don't have a gun. I don't have license to even own a gun. We have a Ministry of Defense headed by a minister. We have Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, the Inspector General of Police. But some of us are also worried. Recently, the Inspector General of Police approached the 8th National Assembly and confessed to them that he was helpless. Just today, there's a report in the news that a chief of army staff is saying that some of the soldiers are not loyal, that they are not committed. And the big question you ask is that, what is the role of leadership if not to inspire the workforce to be committed? You see, some of us have complained, but these things were quickly denied, that some of them were not well taken care of. You know, in the course of this Boko Haram rampage, some countries have offered to come and help us, talking about America, New Zealand, Canada, the UK. In fact, at a time, somebody who is a security expert from the UK said that Nigeria has lost the glory associated with the military might in the past, talking of ill equipment. In fact, when you read reports of the level of ammunition available to these Boko Haram fighters, insurgents, bandits, whoever we have chosen to call them conveniently, you'll be amazed. And we've had series of reports of these criminals overrunning military base. And we have become experts in denying these obvious realities. You see, so I just want to keep hope alive that this is probably one of the phases we need to go through as a nation to come out greater, more glorious. But I keep emphasizing that I have not seen the element of unity that is required for the actual national development. Perhaps that is why you have the United Arab Emirates making progress. That is why you have the United Kingdom making progress. That is why you have the United States of America making progress. But here we are busy with rotational leadership. They're fighting for who is president in 2023. So we really need to sit back. But at this point in time, this insecurity has become a threat to all. Members of the National Assembly in the 8th Assembly came out to scream that some of them could no longer go to their constituencies. Where you have social functions now far away from Lagos, where I live, it will be difficult to find friends that will want to escort you there, except you strategically locate the social part of the events in Lagos so that you can pull that crowd, and probably you go out there and perform the traditional functions or whatever, and you sneak back out of town. It's bad. And we are creating an impression as if these criminals are superior to the government apparatus. That is a huge sign of distress, and we must just correct this. And that is why I was impressed when the president went to the National Assembly, you recall, then to present the 2019 budget, and from the way some of the members were behaving, he said that the world is watching. The world is watching Nigeria. And the world is not just watching, the world is commenting. The UK just want their citizens not to visit, to be careful in visiting 21 states out of 36 states. What is left? So these are serious issues, and we still have the ministries, we have the agencies, we have the departments, we have the budget rolled out, we are spending money. And that is another angle to the Boko Haram. I think somewhere along the line, it probably became business for some, because you need to go and find out how much we have rolled into this insurgency, as if insurgency is an industry, like agriculture. And you also discover that even our efforts in developing the country have been truncated. We talk about diversification, paying attention to agriculture, and there are splinter groups of criminals that are killing farmers, overrunning their communities, burning down their houses, their residents, and chasing them out of their local environment and occupying. So how do you make progress? You are trying to promote a business and you are destroying other businesses. So we need governance intelligence at the global level. It will help us, you see, and countries of the world are willing to assist. You talk about agriculture, China is blazing the trail. You talk about cattle rearing, India is leading there. You talk about peaceful nations. You talk about Iceland, you talk about New Zealand, you talk about Austria. You talk about economic power. You see what the USA is doing around the world now. Mexico is almost on her knees now, trying to make some immigration reforms because the president of the US insisted, no, we need to protect our borders. We need to protect our environment. China is talking with America, you know, because this is what I want to see in my country, economic muscle, so that when we speak in West Africa, you know, and it's so, and really, we are so blessed. We have a huge potentials, and that is the difference between resources and resourcefulness. It's not about the resources you have that we generate prosperity. It is the resourcefulness with which you engage the resources. So some of us are still keenly waiting for resourceful leadership in this country, with all due respect, because of course one of the ways of testing processes are the results of the processes. So if the results we have right now should be evaluative in relevance, I think we are far away from the target of being a civilized society. And when you talk about comparison between a developing country, undeveloped country, and then developed countries, you talk about the human capital, you know, how weak or strong it is. You talk about poverty or prosperity. You talk about the strength of the economy, you know, and countries with vulnerable economies are classified as poor countries. And of course, in some of these poor countries and undeveloped countries, you find the elements of terrorism and insurgency and stuff like that. So we really need to migrate and wake up.
All right, still on insecurity, do you think the introduction of state police at the local level and at the state level will put an end to banditry and insurgency?
I hope it does, but I do not trust the process. If at the macro level we have not seen the sincerity, let me tell you, we have the capacity.
Sure.
We do. We have this Nigerian police from the, we can police this nation, but are they willing to police? I have raised the issue of regional integration. In the US, you have security apparatus up to county level at the county. The people are involved in everything. But here we are too political in our thinking. So what difference will it make if, for example, there is a state police handed over to a governor who is threatening body bags? So I think we need to understand that when the poor get to the edge of survival, they eat the rich. So insecurity is no respecter of persons. So whether at the federal level, state level, local government level, in fact, some states have impressed me so much. You talk of local policing. We have templates of it in Lagos, for instance. We have the neighborhood watch. And right now, the southwestern people are beginning to feel so unsecured that they are threatening to revive the Agbekoya army. The Agbekoya regime was between 1968 and 1969 when local farmers rose up to challenge the unfriendly tax policy of the government, and it was an effective revolution. So why should we go back to now rising against one another? So I still believe that the federal government, if there is repentance and sincerity of governance, can secure this nation. You know, and of course, we have instances in this country the Shiite Islamic group, led in Nigeria by El Zazaki, at a point was becoming a larger than life group. This government took that group out. The leader and the wife, despite court pronouncements that they should be released on bail, are still in incarceration. At a time, Nnamdi Kanu, the driver of the Biafran agitation, was also very vocal and visible. This government rolled out, I think, Python dance, and danced this man out of circulation. So we are effective, but it's the sincerity, and that is why this day I have chosen to go deep. Let's go to content analysis. The things I'm saying here are recorded. The threat of monkeys and baboons soaked in blood, threat of clampdown on Boko Haram being an injustice to the north, regional angle. And that allusion was to the fact that the Niger Delta militants were given amnesty and have been pampered. So why should you clamp down? So as long as we don't migrate from this divisive approach to governance, we continue to have the terrible results we're having now. Because if you even want to be religious, I am a Christian by the grace of God. I know that in Amos chapter 3 verse 3, the Bible says, can two walk together except they be agreed? In Psalms 133, the Bible says that, behold how blessed it is for brethren to dwell together in unity, that God will release his blessings. So what is our problem? What is our problem? Look at the state of the nation now. Look at businesses crumbling. Look at electricity. Alhaji Aliko Dangote was commenting on the state of electricity, and I respect that investor a lot. I've been to some of his facilities. This is an organization that generates independent power and even gives to communities. And this man expressed his worry that in about 16 years we've been struggling to just add 1,000 megawatts. Struggling! And you look at a country like Egypt, that within a space of time they added about 10,000 megawatts to their electricity generation. And here we talk about transmission, generation, different kind, to even give meters to customers, the estimated bills and everything. And businesses are crumbling. People are becoming poor by the day. And poor people are angry people. So you see people, look at the suicide rate. This is not a picture we want to paint, but it has even become difficult to cover these realities. Because when you talk about image, we're talking about the UK instruction to the citizens to be careful where they go, not to visit 21 states in Nigeria. And I said, in public relations, you have about 3 kinds of images. I mean, you talk of wish image. Oh, I wish to be like Canada or wherever. You talk about the mirror image. Who do you see when you stand before the mirror? And you talk about the real image. Who are you? What are the things you need to change? And the Chinese have a saying that you cannot carve a rotten wood. And that links the issue of reputation with image. You may want to be presented as the giant of Africa, but what are the value propositions coming from your country? What is your country known for? Look at the embarrassment of our offer to Ghana. We went to Ghana to offer Ghana that we help them fight corruption, and they just politely advised us that I think you need that help more than we do here, because in ranking Ghana has a better evaluation than Nigeria in fight against corruption. So we really need to sit back now and realize that Nigeria potentially is the best country in the world. And I think I have approached you with this teaser before. If anybody is trying to prove me wrong on that, given the enormous blessings God has deposited in this country, let's do governance exchange. Let the Canadian government come and manage Nigeria for 2 years, and let the Nigerian government go and manage Canada for 1 year and compare notes. So I think it's time for us to take a decision whether to secure the future or to mortgage the future. Right now you can see what is happening, seed of hatred, So the younger ones now are given the mindset of rising against one another. We are creating the survival mentality. The survival mentality is different from the prosperous mentality. Survivors don't care if in the survivors community it is the fish has to eat fish to survive. Dog eats dog. No, that's not how a society should be. We must go back to where we missed it all. But I am still strongly suggesting that if we can pay attention to our uniting forces, and that has to do with conflict resolution. What exactly do we need as a people to make us work together? Every part of this country is blessed. I think I discussed with you the fact that the gold deposit in Zamfara State has the capacity of generating $2 billion annually, and bandits have taken over, and you see all this. I mean, I'm still worried that in 6 years my lovely country spent 11 trillion naira on fuel subsidy. And do you know that I think in the last 2 weeks or so, the report is that the refining capacity of our refineries has dwindled to about 5.5%. So where are we going? And there is a threat that if the Dangote refinery becomes functional, our 4 refineries may go moribund. So are we making progress or digressing? These are big questions that should torture anyone that loves this country enough to say we need a revival. There's no doubt about that. We need a governance revival, and it's never too late. Tanzania is coming out of the blues now. Rwanda is a lovely story. In fact, the president of Rwanda was in Nigeria for the June 12th Democracy Day, and he gave some very valid advice on fighting corruption. That is not a rocket science approach. There are some elements to it. You look at your culture, you look at accountability, you look at responsibility. You see, and these things are possible. We can be right now under the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. There is a platform for collaboration, partnership with other countries. So you are not expected to run the race alone. So why don't you partner? I mean, I just said it here that China is, I think almost every arable land in China is cultivated. China is doing greatly in agriculture. So why don't we partner with China? Why don't we partner with, there are countries of this world where they are closing down their prisons because they have low incidence of crime. So why don't we, decide to be on the positive lane as the countries of the world are moving forward, so that we start dealing with beautiful problems. There are ugly problems and there are beautiful problems. You see, the problems the likes of America and Canada have there, those are beautiful problems. But we are sitting here dealing with ugly problems, and whether we like it or not, you either add value or add problems. But whichever you decide to do, you'll be remembered for it. Mandela remains a global icon because the man decided to pitch his life on the positive side of history. Even when he had the opportunity to hit back at his enemies, he called his people and said, no, because of national interest, let's go together. I mean, that is remarkable, and that brings us to leadership. I believe that the visa to the greatness of this country is in leadership, and we look forward to a time when we begin to experience that leadership.
Thank you very much, sir.